Today I'm sharing my pile of possibilities for Victober. Can I read these? Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. So today I am super excited because I get to share with you my pile of possibilities for the most wonderful time of the year, and that is Victober. I am so excited to share this. I started this channel last year, so I am actually this week celebrating my first year officially on booktube, and I'm really excited about that. But the reason that I even started this channel was because I wanted to join in those celebrations of Victober. If you're not familiar with Victober, it is a month-long celebration of reading literature written during the Victorian period. So it's just anything written during the Victorian era counts as Victorian literature. And if you read just one poem or short story, anything, you have participated in Victober. And we celebrate the entire month of October. And I just love Victorian literature and I want to read it all, but there are tons of books written during the Victorian period. So there are options for everybody, every genre, every type of writing that you want, and some wonderful classics too. So I'm excited about it, obviously, and I will leave a link to all the announcement videos from our host and co-host. Thank you so much for hosting this event because I absolutely love it. And all year long, I have been collecting books for this event. Now, there are some prompts and I'm going to try my best to follow the prompts and fulfill those, but who knows if I will. I'm just excited to read all the things. So the first is a group read, and the group read this year is, I think I have it somewhere, let's see, The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. And I already had this on my shelf, so I was really excited when I saw that this one was the group read because I have never read any Thomas Hardy. I know I have this in Far From the Madding Crowd. I think I have a couple of other Thomas Hardy, but I have never read Hardy because I've always heard that some of his work or most of his work is kind of depressing. I might be wrong. Leave a comment if you have read Thomas Hardy and how you feel about it. But I do want to read Thomas Hardy because I think he was an important writer during the Victorian time. So I do want to read Thomas Hardy. I have just been afraid of reading it. So this is my chance. This doesn't seem like it's that long, but we are reading, I think, 2 chapters a day of this, and that will be easy. I can just sometime in the morning pick this up and read along. So I'm excited about that. And I already had it on my shelf. So that is the group read. And then the first prompt, which is Kate's prompt, is to read a Victorian work with chronic illness or disability representation. So for this one, I think someone had actually mentioned this one in their video when they were announcing the Victober's prompts, and that is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I have had this book on my shelf for a very long time. I've always wanted to read it. I've heard that it is a great one, and I just have a feeling that this is going to be one of my favorite reads of the year. I just have that feeling. I love The Moonstone. I read that one last year for Victober, and so I'm definitely ready to read another Wilkie Collins. This, I think, is a sensation novel, which I love. I loved his storytelling in The Moonstone, so I'm excited about this one. And it looks like it will fulfill that prompt. Now, one note is, I don't know what most of these books are about, so I really can't tell you. Because if you know anything about classic literature, they usually give spoilers. So don't ever read the back. If you're interested in it, just go for it and read it because a lot of times it spoils it for you. So I'm not going to be able to tell you what any of these are about. All I know is there's a woman in white and it's a sensation novel. It's super popular and a lot of people like it. And that's enough for me. So I thought this would be a good one to read for Victober, and I'm excited about it. Then Katie's prompt is to read a Victorian work that is a coming of age story. And I think she mentioned this one and I already had it. and that is A Dark Night's work by Elizabeth Gaskell. This looks like it's a novella or a short story. It doesn't seem like it's that long, but I want to read everything by Elizabeth Gaskell, so I already had this one because I've been slowly collecting everything written by Elizabeth Gaskell, and she mentioned this one as a coming-of-age story, so I'm going to read that one for that prompt. And again, it doesn't look like it's that long. Roz's prompt is to read a work of Victorian poetry, long or short. Now, I have this that I picked up. It's a used copy of a Penguin classic. It's called The Penguin Book of Victorian Verse, and it is a chunker. So I am sure out of all these poets, that there are several poems in here that I could read. So what I thought about doing was just looking through here. Now, I'm not sure. I think they're all Victorian. I'll check and see. I know that the poets in here lived during that time period, but I'm not sure about the dates. I'm not going to worry too much about that. If they were alive during the Victorian period, that's enough for me. And I will just pick and choose from this. I'll keep this maybe on my nightstand and read maybe a poem here and there. So that will fulfill that prompt. Marissa's prompt is to read a Victorian short story. And I love short stories. If you follow my channel, you know that I love a good short story. And I had this that I picked up last year and I didn't read it. And that is Mary Elizabeth Bradden's The Face in the Glass and Other Gothic Tales. We read last year for the group read Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic Tales, and I really enjoyed that. There were a couple of short stories I didn't like, but most of them were great and Gothic. And I love Gothic anything. And I love that kind of read right now. I like creepy, spooky during this time period. You know, just the dark, creepy houses and all those kinds of things. So this one sounded like something that I would enjoy. So I think what I'm going to do is pick and choose from this book, from this short story collection for that prompt, and maybe find another favorite. And I don't think I've read anything by Mary Elizabeth Bradden. I think I have something else on this list actually. But I look forward to dipping in and out of this. And short stories, by the way, is a great place to start. Even poetry too. If you like short stories and you've never read any Victorian literature, that would be a great way to sample some of these writers. And if you find a favorite short story and you like the writing, then you may want to pick up one of their novels. So that's just an idea. And then we have Petra's prompt, which I loved because it is to read a Victorian work and then watch an adaptation. And Petra must have known that this was for me. Thank you, Petra. Just kidding. But really, this is perfect for me because one of my goals this year is kind of just happened. I have been reading a lot of books and then trying to find an adaptation just to see how they compare. It's just a way for me, especially these longer classics that take me a long time to get finished. I like celebrating, sort of earning the right to watch those adaptations after I finish it. And I've been doing that. Last year I started it. And so this year I've done that several times. So this is perfect for me. So thank you, Petra, for choosing this as our prompt this year. And by the way, I've loved all these prompts. But this one is to read and watch an adaptation. Well, last year I had picked this book. Let me see if I can find it. I had all my books here. So last year I had down to read Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Bradden. So here's another Mary Elizabeth Bradden. And what had happened was I was at a thrift store in the science fiction section, and this book was in there randomly. Of course, this is not science fiction, or I don't think it is. And I thought, okay, it's meant to be, I'm supposed to read that book. But by the time I purchased it and brought it home, my Victorian reading was out. I had read so much Victorian literature that I was ready for something else. And I had actually started Victober in September, to be honest, because I was so ready for it. So I didn't get to this one. Well, I had picked this up and then I ordered the DVD because I thought, oh cool, I can read the book and then watch the DVD, the TV, the movie adaptation for Lady Audley's Secret. I didn't even know they had a movie adaptation, but I saw it some kind of way, so I picked it up. Well, I haven't watched it yet because, of course, I haven't read the book. And then Nikki from Red Dot Reads and Gemma from Gemma Books had said they would buddy read this with me. So that's even better. So I have a buddy read of Lady Audley's Secret, and after I read it, I can watch the movie adaptation. So what I'm hoping to do is, after Nikki and Gemma read this with me, that they will also watch this with me. So that's your challenge if you're watching Nikki and Gemma. Let's read it and then see if you can find the movie adaptation, and we can keep the conversation going after we watch the movie too. So that's my challenge for you ladies as we read the book. So I'm super excited about that because it's a book I wanted to read already. It fulfills Petra's prompt, and it is a buddy read. So excited about that. And then there's also, I made a note of this, there is also a Woman in White adaptation. So I thought if I do get this one finished, which this is a priority, I really want to get to this one, I could watch that too, because I heard that there was a good adaptation for A Woman in White. And by the way, if there is an adaptation for one of these other books that I've mentioned that I don't know about, let me know that in the comments, because I do want to watch, as I read, I want to celebrate by watching the adaptation. I just think that's a fun thing to do. I've been doing that lately and I've enjoyed it. And then I also have just a few more that I wanted to mention. Now, I know this is a lot of books and I might not get to all of them, but I like to have lots of options. I still have some on my shelf that I haven't read, so I could pick one of those too. But anyway, this one I thought fit well because it actually fulfills the prompt that I'm using Woman in White for, and that is a Victorian work with chronic illness or disability representation. And that is The Little Lame Prince and His Traveling Cloak. And this is a children's book that was written during the Victorian period, and it's by Miss Mulock. Now, Miss Mulock is actually Dinah Mulock Crate, who wrote Olive. And I know that Katie from Books and Things loved that novel, and I think she's read some other things by her. But her children's books, apparently she would use Miss Mulock, or Mulock, however you say her name, as her name for those books. And so this is one of those. I have this really cool copy of it. Apparently this prince has an accident as a child that leaves him lame, but then he goes on this adventure on this magical cloak. And that sounded perfect. It sounds like a great children's book. So I thought I would read it. It would fulfill that prompt for disability representation, but it also is a children's book. And I actually love reading some of the children's literature from that time period too. And I've never read anything by Miss Mulock or Dinah Mulock Crake, whoever. I've never read anything by her, so I thought that I would pick this one up too. So that's an idea. And again, it's a children's book. It's not that long, so I don't think that will take me that much time, but boy, do I love the cover of this one. I also had a couple of nonfiction. These are just some that I wanted to read. One of them is just about a Victorian figure during that time period, but this one is My Dearest Albert, Queen Victoria's Life Through Her Letters and Journals. And I have this beautiful copy. Someone bought this for me. It was a gift. And I have wanted to read it, but I was saving it for Victober or either Nonfiction November. So I think I will kind of read through it. And if I don't finish it in October, I can finish it for Nonfiction November. But this starts with, there's an introduction. And it says here, Victoria put pen to paper every day and kept a diary from the age of 13. She was also an enthusiastic letter writer throughout her life. So she has lots of letters, and I just am fascinated by that. I wish that we wrote letters to each other still today. I'm always in for reading letters. I read some Jane Austen letters during Jane Austen July, so I thought I would pick this one up to just have on my nightstand to read throughout Victober. Then I also had this book. My son went to a conference last week, and they were selling some books there, and he picked this book up for me because he knows that I love Charles Spurgeon. It's The Gospel Focus of Charles Spurgeon by Stephen Lawson. This is just about Charles Spurgeon, and if you're not familiar with Charles Spurgeon, he is known as the Prince of Preachers, I think is what they called him, and he was a famous Victorian preacher. So last year I read some sermons written and preached by Charles Spurgeon. So this year, when he gave me this just a few days ago, I thought, perfect. I'll read this either for Victober or in nonfiction November. And I can, again, continue it like I continue the letters of Queen Victoria. So those are the books that I have on my shelf that are my pile of possibilities for Victober. I'm excited about all of these. Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comments. What are you reading for Victober? I do hope that you will participate because it's so much fun. It's super flexible this year too because, you know, we have a lot of shorter works you can pick up. Just read a short story or a poem and you have participated. So I do hope that you will follow along and maybe you'll find a new Victorian favorite too. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.